And they're not, these aren't gonna be minutes unless we have a quorum. They're only considered notes
Oh, yeah.
if you don't have a quorum under open meeting law.
Right, okay.
So,
So I will call to order, planning board meeting for February 24th. Is there anyone here to speak to something not on the agenda? All right, can we put the minutes with three of us, Jess, right?
you can.
Yeah. All right, you guys get a chance to look at the minutes from February 10th?
I did. I
I
had no
have to
changes.
abstain because I wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
So just hold them to the next
We'll
meeting.
hold it till next time, all right. So we will move on to the public hearing for the special permit at 48 Parsons Street. Want to come up to the table here? Sure. So we did have some discussion, gosh, I guess it was January 13th. And went through most of the application. There were some concerns raised by neighbors, some of which seemed pretty minimal. There was an abutter who had dogs who were concerned about a fence and making it a permanent fence or some sort of divider. But one of the main concerns was traffic and whether there've been, what kind of thoughts you had. I know that we were given this traffic study for Parsons Village, but sort of what you anticipate and what you expect from that end.
Well, I think the traffic impact's going to be minimal, especially considering that, not long ago there was a school. There's certainly a decrease in traffic flow from an active six-room schoolhouse. At this point, we pretty much solidified the design that's actually on about 15 units. So it's even reducing the flow from there. I mean, Parsons Village, if I remember correctly, was generating around a dozen trips per morning. So, and that's, what, 30 unit, is that what that is?
I think it's 37.
37
Like
units.
that, yeah, 38.
So, and we're looking at
Far below that.
far below that number. So I really think traffic is going to be a minimal impact.
Okay. And do you guys have any other questions based on what was in here? I think we
No.
went through.
Yeah, we've had a long time to review, and I've gone through it. I mean, all the questions that I felt were things that we were in our purview to go through. I'm comfortable with it, that you've met. I would vote to approve at this point. I know there's been some discussion from the community about overall use and how things are intended. I don't happen to agree with that, so I would advocate to, when we can, to vote in favor.
But so you have no other questions for the applicant or anything else?
I have none.
Jeff?
No,
Okay.
I went through what we had.
Anything else?
Can
Sure.
I speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
So,
you just tell us your name?
sure, I'm Kirsten Mora, I live at 12 Federal Street, and I want to, I was hoping to come to this meeting with the idea of discussion and cooperation, understanding that we have somewhat different, two different dialectics that are hoping to meet in the middle. And I also want to recognize that, not this board, but that the RFP did in fact, it was not an easy RFP to come to, but we did in fact see some, really positive gains for the neighborhood. We're going to be keeping the historic character of the building, which I think is important to everybody, even though they're not here. And we're also going to be getting some green space for the neighborhood. So I think those are two very big positives that came out. Additionally, the developer, as I understand it, I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Kevin.
Hi. You've revitalized the Button Building, which is, very nice, and we're certainly looking forward to seeing Parsons Street School become a vibrant property again, as opposed to an abandoned one, which it
Yeah.
has been. I just have 4 points. One is just a clarification. The placement of the dumpster is, where is the dumpster going to be placed? I just wondered. So it's going to be,
And there's a utility shed,
okay, so this, and this.
dumpster pad with new
Okay.
fences in the back here.
And this does abut the neighbor's property, but they haven't raised any concerns. So I think that seems reasonable, the placement of the dumpster. So we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, I don't know that much about dumpsters, but in the summer, are they relatively contained? They don't smell awful, so that we don't have to have the wafting garbage? Does it make sense to empty them multiple times a week, or
I mean,
does that work?
15 units would typically require a bi-weekly.
Oh, would, okay.
I wouldn't really be interested in putting that, locking that into anything.
Okay,
It depends
that's-
oftentimes on size and things like that. But the plan is to have a pad that accommodates 2 dumpsters, one for recycling, typically cardboard, paper only, and the other for typical trash. And
Okay.
that's,
And then it's enclosed in a fence itself, or is that,
we plan to do 3 sides.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So the new fence is here, here, and here, with the existing fence behind it.
No, it'd be the 3, I think the front will be
The front
open,
will
so
be
you
Front
can
will be
put stuff in it.
Yeah, we find that when you put them on the front, they never close.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
a solid wood fence, I mean, it's not a chain link fence, right? I mean, it does
No,
offer
typically
some
we do
structure.
something like a picket, or if it's chain link, it's infilled with the green slats, privacy
Okay.
slats. But I believe what's on the design now is picket.
Okay. So that would alleviate some of the site and probably some issues if there are any with odor or anything, just because it's enclosed.
Okay, that seems sound okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying none. I get yelled at for talking every time I come in.
You're
I'm gonna
free to
yell
talk.
at
I
you
ain't
on,
saying
I said I
nothing.
wasn't going. This discussion we're having. Let's see, just along the back of the property, is there gonna be any kind of a fence along the back to separate? I know there's no development for that open space at the moment, but I think, either training people not to drive in through the back, because that is open space, and right now it's actually being used as the bus stop. So all the kids gather there in the morning, and
I think
wait
that's
for
a
the
good
bus,
question.
so.
Well, the current idea or thought behind it is to not fence that until we know what's going on with the green space.
Okay.
I'd be very reluctant to put a fence, chain link, or otherwise until we know what's gonna happen there. Because ideally, I'd like them to play off each other.
Right.
If you're putting 15 residential units and you're building community gardens, it'd be nice to have some sort of access between the two if possible. Obviously, that's a far future discussion, but until that happens, I would really like to hold off on putting anything.
So your concern is that right now there's road access that would bring you from the other side into this parking lot?
Right, and it is used, actually.
You're redoing the parking lot, right? Or
Yeah,
not?
that's not gonna be conducive for access, I think.
I mean, will there
because-
be curbing or something at least there, or?
Not at this time,
Okay.
because the location of the property lines is essentially in the parking lot. Right?
Okay.
And that's another reason why I'm very reluctant, because at some point, the city's gonna need to remove the pavement, rework the pavement. It just doesn't seem like a good idea to do that until the plan for the open space is solidified.
Okay.
Help me understand a dividing line. Existing, and I've been back there, there's a parking lot and there's kind of this little roundabout that's in the back there.
Just off of that.
So that's that right off of
Runs
there.
across, yeah. If you go back there, you can see we have a 10th fence that's essentially on the line.
And this area was rather forested on the other side of the property, it's almost
It
unused.
has
by the-
some taller trees
Yeah,
over there.
okay, that's right. I remember.
What about, I don't want to detract from your project, but plunking a few Jersey barriers down there? Is that-
Oh, I really prefer,
What,
I mean, that's gonna,
what do you think your timeline is for getting people into the building?
my plan for approval. Ideally the fall,
Okay.
that's the construction schedule currently. That's what it has as occupancy in the fall.
Jess, where do we stand with the city's park side? I mean, is there?
So my plan right now, the Conway School is doing a big project that's a watershed study for Lower Mill Pond Park. In the last public meeting, I highlighted that this park, and we have an agreement with Conway School right now, the city does, so because they're located in Mill 180, we're trying to provide them with some planning projects. I really have emphasized quite highly that I would love to see in the spring semester now, I haven't heard what their projects are in the spring, but to at least have them do a neighborhood design project where they're meeting with the neighborhood, they're holding several public meetings, and then they're coming up with conceptual designs for that park area. So that's my hope, is that this year we can work with the Conway School to make that happen. Now, after that, it's gonna take money,
Right.
it's gonna take, probably grant writing, And then there's a question of who's gonna manage it. Parks and Rec has made it quite clear that they are not interested in managing that. So we're gonna have to come up with some sort of creative management solution to making this happen.
Okay,
So there's a
so-
lot of steps gonna be involved. I'd say it's at least a couple years out.
Right, so there's definitely gonna be overlap where the park has not had anything done to it, and there will hopefully be residents
Correct.
in the
I'm
school.
trying to push it
So-
forth as sort of the next.
So what about something that's like more attractive than Jersey barriers? And what if you did like planters or something like that, you know, something to block
Just
that access?
I guess first, I don't see necessarily what the harm is if someone did access it. I mean, it was always access, but I also don't think that there's any reason that would be your primary access. The residents that live there, chances are gonna be traveling, commuting from some other area. If you're coming in from Northampton, you're gonna take Parsons. If you're coming in from Pleasant, you're not gonna weave through the side streets first, coming in from Parsons. And same thing if you're coming up Everett. I don't think, you know, I just don't see that as being a really attractive way to get into the back versus down Parsons, a straight shot and drive into your parking. And especially if these spots get taken up, some of them will be designated visitor spots. You won't be able to drive through there
Right.
anyways, because cars are gonna be parked there. That will also be the place we're gonna put snow
Yeah.
all winter long.
So before it becomes a park, what is your concern about the cars accessing that?
I mean, it's done now, so even looking at it from your residents' perspective, you know, people do cut through. They just, I don't know who
They
they
do
are,
whatever they
why
want
they
back
do
there.
it.
Okay.
So,
I live
mean,
right
they don't
there.
because you have the fence now, they won't be cutting through, but it's always been, people just like
I use
drive
it.
through,
See
and
myself,
I'm
people do
wondering
come
if when
the one
Parsons.
Ferryway.
69 Parsons Street, that is going to, you know, amp up the number of people coming through and I don't know why people come through there.
Okay,
Could not
so-
give you a good reason.
We can put that off, I guess, and discuss it as whether we want to do a condition when we have a voting body
Yeah.
here.
I want to
Right.
just state what I'm thinking on it, if you'll allow me to make sure that I'm putting it right in my head, that there's a concern, especially with the bus stop there, that if people are cutting through, it could be a risk to kids. Is that essentially what we're saying? Well,
not
I
entirely.
just want to make sure if that's what the argument is.
No, I just feel like making some delineation makes sense because people do cut through. Yes, and yes, right now it is being used as the bus stop. I don't know what the city's plans are to continue that, but yeah, people should be exiting the other way. And people
Conversations
should
with
be-
the Strongs, because actually the school in the front was a bus stop, so
Mhm.
they relocate that. The fall semester, they'll no longer be a bus stop. If they change their mind or not, I don't know.
Right.
I know that he was aware of the changes. You know, if anything, I would think we would be more concerned as the property owners about cut through.
Right.
To me, that's where the risk is if someone comes flying through there. But you know, we would probably choose to try to address it with signs or something along those lines. Again, I really have hopes that we're able to work with the city to try to develop the green space out back.
Mhm.
I mean, we had conversations with the mayor before. I think the two play off each other quite well. Really don't want to put a fence or anything until we know where paths go and how that works out, if it can even work out. You know.
Right.
I see that more as a concern for us, and we can address it as needed. We're not going to let cars fly through there if it's endangering, you know, children or something along those lines, and address it in incremental steps, where it's first signage, and then perhaps we try to do some sort of a temp barrier.
All right, well, I mean, I guess we gotta wait till next time anyway to just make a
Okay.
decision on that. So what else do we have?
Then the driveway here, the barrier along the driveway. Currently, it's a chain link fence, I believe, and it's slated, I believe in the proposal, you're gonna just leave it as the existing chain link fence. What I would like to propose is that this becomes, at least for the, you know, this high, or whatever is a reasonable, I'm not a builder, I don't know what standards it would be, was that it was made out of something solid. The yards here are not very deep. On the corner, we have the pocket park. It is really, it is used by kids now. And then the two backyards of the two existing houses, which are, I would say, 12 to 14 feet deep.
Yeah, one of them's my house, and
And the other is
Yeah,
his house.
And
yeah.
you had raised concerns about your dog at the first meeting, is that correct?
Well, my concern is
Well,
actually the amount
she
of.
barks anyways, but.
Right, the amount of traffic that's gonna be coming in here, and this is very narrow right
Yeah.
in here. And just, there's not a lot of space between the houses. And it feels like all of the parking and all of the cars are gonna be directed back and forth here, and the dumpster truck is gonna come in. And so to have something here that was much more substantial and solid, because obviously, the hope is people are not gonna be speeding back around the back of the school to park, but I think this is gonna become a lot more of a thoroughfare than it is currently. So looking for something solid, at least for the initial, this is 3 to 4 feet, and then that's
I know your plan is for bushes, I believe, right? Your architect told us 2 weeks ago that you're gonna put up bushes.
Are there room for bushes there?
No, it would be more of a seasonal plantings, things like that, that would give you
Some cover?
some.
Yeah, because you can't really grow anything there.
Yeah.
Well, the lot is to be repaved and regraded, it's in
Right.
So that will clean things up and possibly allow us to do something there. I think the short of it is, it's probably one of the discussions to have for a vote, because quite frankly, our budget is about, to say it's maxed is an understatement. So, while I can understand that, making a fence solid on the bottom 3 to 4 feet is.
It's essentially a new fence.
It's basically a new fence,
Right.
and it's basically putting up a solid fence. That's a huge expense, and I'm not sure that that's necessarily a giant improvement. It was a school, there was obviously traffic, kids, things like that.
There was no parking in the back. There was very little traffic that would have gone back around the school like that. The playground was back there. There was a paved area, which I believe would have been used as a playground. And then the circle, which is part of the green space lot, is where the traffic would have been contained to. So it had a very distinct,
I hear that. I'm not sure it's something the planning board, I mean, that sounds like it's a discussion between the tenants on that side and the new property owner. Is that
Well, we
something?
can certainly require that.
I don't,
But I mean,
I
that's
personally
something
feel
I
comfortable.
think we can discuss when we have the voting body here.
okay.
And you said there were 4 things? Is there one more?
So, and again, I'm not here to prevent anybody from making money, and I appreciate that this is, gonna cost you a lot of money to rehabilitate the school, and bring it back to the character that we have requested as a neighborhood and all of that. But I also realize that, this is a long-term commitment to the neighborhood, so perhaps making some concessions in terms of a more solid wall, so that should somebody miss, it does happen, somebody miss, they would hit the wall as opposed to driving through a fence and ending up in somebody's backyard, and just making that a really clear barrier. And so that brings me to my 4th point, the dreaded density discussion. What I understand, and I am not a builder, I'm not on the zoning board, I am not on the planning board, is that with the size of the lot now, really the maximum density would be 11 units. And last I knew it was 17, it sounds like you're down to 15 units now. And I think when we had originally had the discussion, way back when, before you ever purchased the building, the neighborhood had felt that 12 units would make the most sense for us. So,
I don't think that's, respectfully, I think that's inaccurate. I believe it's 18.
The multifamily housing ordinance, I don't know where you
I-
plug your numbers
I think
at,
the
but-
11 you might be seeing from the RFP was a request or a target number.
I was looking at the different zonings and have the amount of space based on the lot, and
So under the multifamily housing, which this is because it's multiple units in one building, the
Mhm.
maximum number of dwelling units per structure shall be 18, with the condition in the R15 and R35 districts that the minimum yard setbacks be increased to 50 feet, but that's if it's a new structure. Since he's going into an existing structure, the number is 18 under the multifamily.
so, I guess then also looking at the Parsons Street project, and again, that was a new structure, I realize it's not gonna apply for these zoning ordinances. That density evidently keeps in character with the neighborhood, and according to my quick and dirty calculations, it's 38 units for 4-point-something acres, which is a lower density than what this is proposing, even at 15 units. So we would be looking, if you could find your maybe do, to perhaps lower the number of units that are going to be built.
All right, well, all these will have to wait until we have a full board, but,
Right.
is there anything else? Or is that covered?
That was it for me.
Mr. Hanlon, you all set?
All set?
All right.
Thank you for bringing
Anything
this
else you
up.
want to add?
Definitely.
All right, so I guess we will wait until we have a quorum.
You need to continue it to
Yeah, we're
the
gonna
next
continue,
meeting.
yeah,
at the
so
right-
do
at
you
the
want to
right
make a
time.
motion to continue it?
Motion to continue
Hold on, we gotta get our date here.
the discussion on
Uh,
48
March 10th.
Carson Street, special permit till March 10th at 6 o'clock.
Was that a second, Jeff?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right. Thank you all for
Okay,
coming.
thank you,
and
thanks for
participating.
entertaining the discussion and.
So sorry.
Well, it's okay.
Good.
I've been to lots of meetings. Okay, thank you.
It's one of you guys gotta be out next time, because everybody's taking a
You're in
turn.
here every time.
Everybody's taking a turn.
All right. We have 3 zoning board applications.
Yeah, I didn't put them on the agenda because I just.
Surprise.
The
You're good.
hearing is until March 12th.
Okay, you're on
Put these
the
on.
Yes.
Jenny, you all right with that?
Yes.
We'll discuss those March 10th.
Okay.
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 Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, have a good night.
For just 1 second.
Sorry.